When you look back at American history, especially the 20th century, there are these moments that don't just happen in history. They seem to redefine it.
They absolutely do.
And I think for a lot of people, the three biggest, maybe most painful mysteries are the assassinations of President John F. Kennedy, Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and of course the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
And these events, they aren't just footnotes. They're the source of so much ongoing public distrust, confusion, and for our purposes today, decades of classified government records.
Right. And that whole battle, the public's right to know versus the government's need for secrecy, it seems to be facing a huge challenge now.
A very definitive one. We're doing a deep dive into Executive Order 14176. And this is a major presidential document signed January 23, 2025.
And then it was published in the Federal Register, which is what, the official daily journal of the U.S. government?
Exactly, on January 31st, so it's official policy.
Our mission here is really to understand the weight of this order, because this isn't just some advisory memo, right? This is a direct command from the top.
It's a directive demanding a specific outcome, the release of these records. And they call it long overdue.
And the core idea behind it all.
If we boil it all down, the policy shift is actually remarkably simple. The EO states that after more than 50 years, the American people and the victims' families, they deserve transparency and truth.
So it's a moral argument as much as a legal one.
It is, and crucially, it officially certifies that continuing to withhold this information is not in the national interest. That really shifts the entire legal presumption away from secrecy.
Okay, so let's unpack that, because the legal side of this gets very technical. We have to start with the JFK files, which are sort of their own beast.
They really are. They're governed by a specific law from 1992, the President John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Collection Act.
And that act came about because people were just not satisfied.
Exactly. It was all about distrust, and it set a very hard deadline. Every single record on the JFK assassination was supposed to be public, in full, by October 26, 2017.
But as we know, that didn't happen.
It did not.
Because the act, for all its good intentions, it had this tiny little escape hatch for the president, didn't it? Tell us about this weighing test, because it's been at the heart of the resistance for years.
It's a literal balancing act designed by Congress for the president to legally postpone disclosure. The agencies, the CIA, the FBI, had to prove that postponement was necessary because of an identifiable harm.
And what does identifiable harm even mean in these cases? I mean, for you listening, why would a document from 1963 still be considered harmful today?
That's the million-dollar question. And the agencies, they consistently argued two main types of harm.
Okay.
One, protecting intelligence methods, their tradecraft. The idea that if they revealed how they did something in 63, maybe that same method is still in use.
And the second?
Protecting sources and foreign relations. So if a foreign national helped the U.S. back then, and maybe they're still alive, releasing their name could put them in danger or damage relations with that country.
Okay, so on the one side of the scale, you have those harms. What's on the other side?
The massive public interest in full disclosure.
Yeah.
So the law said the president had to certify that the harm was of such gravity that it outweighed that public interest.
So every time a release was delayed, a president was basically saying, the risk of this harm is greater than your right to know.
That's the legal certification they were making. And if you look at the source material, EO 14176, it just lays out this long history of delays.
A clear pattern.
A very clear pattern. The original 2017 deadline passed. The administration then certified postponements into 2018. Then the next administration comes in and we see more certifications, more time given to agencies in 2021, 2022, 2023.
Wow, so 6 straight years of delays. It really feels like this bureaucratic tug of war where secrecy just kept winning.
It did, but this new executive order, it finally just pulls the plug on that whole argument, at least for the JFK records.
How so?
The conclusion in this order is that, despite all those previous certifications, continuing to withhold any remaining JFK information is now officially determined to be not consistent with the public interest.
So the scale has finally tipped.
It's a presidential decree saying the scale has tipped, and it calls a full release long overdue.
This is a huge shift. But this is where the EO gets really interesting, because it doesn't just stop with JFK.
No, it doesn't. And this is the crucial policy expansion. It pulls the files on Senator Robert F. Kennedy and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. into the exact same process.
Which is a big deal, because there was no law forcing them to do that, right?
Not at all. The order itself points that out. It says, no act of Congress directs the release of information pertaining to the assassinations of RFK and MLK Jr.
So those files could have just stayed hidden forever under normal classification rules.
Indefinitely.
So why? What's the justification for suddenly including them now?
It's purely about elevating that public interest principle. The executive order basically says, look, regardless of the law, the release of all records on each of these assassinations, JFK, RFK, and MLK, is now a matter of national public interest.
So the White House is essentially taking the spirit of the JFK transparency law and applying it to these other two massive historical cases.
That's a perfect way to put it. They're leveraging executive power to force openness on all three at once.
Okay, so for those of us trying to keep score, this is a massive job. Let's get into the nuts and bolts. Who is responsible for making this happen, and what are the deadlines?
The accountability is really focused. The two leads are the Director of National Intelligence, the DNI, and the Attorney General, the AG.
So the heads of the intelligence community and the Justice Department.
Exactly. And they have to coordinate with the National Security Advisor and the counsel to the president.
And the deadlines here, they're incredibly tight. It feels like they're designed to prevent any more bureaucratic slowdowns.
Oh, they are aggressive. For the JFK records, the DNI and AG have to present a plan for the full and complete release to the president within just 15 days of the order's signing.
15 days. That's almost nothing.
It's incredibly fast.
It suggests the plan was either already done, or this is a demand meant to force radical immediate compliance.
It definitely suggests the president believes there are no more plausible excuses for delay. It's not just send us the files, it's give us the roadmap for total publication now.
And what about the RFK and MLK records? The ones they voluntarily added to this mandate?
They get a little more breathing room, but not much. For those files, the DNI and AG have 45 days from the signing date to present their plan for full release.
Still very aggressive. I suppose that extra time is because there was no previous framework for those files.
That's most likely it. They have to start from scratch, in a way, to categorize and prepare those documents under this new standard.
Now, in any big government directive like this, there are always caveats, right? The fine print. What are the standard outs we see in Section 3?
Right. It's not a magic wand. Section 3 has the usual language. It says the order has to be implemented consistent with applicable law and subject to the availability of appropriation.
The budget excuse.
It's the classic out. An agency could try to argue they don't have the budget or the legal authority to release every single page instantly. But the overall intent of the order is so clear.
That the burden of proof is now on them to justify not releasing something.
Precisely.
So what does this all really mean for you, the person listening to this deep dive? This order, EO 14176, it's more than just a document release. It feels like a rare moment where the executive branch is choosing to solve a historical confusion over just letting institutional secrecy win by default.
It absolutely is. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source material forces you to think about the whole philosophy of classification. The JFK law was a mechanism to weigh a security risk, that identifiable harm, against the public's need for truth.
And this executive order shows that the balance is finally decisively shifted.
It has, which, for you, raises a really critical question. If we as a country can't justify keeping secrets about events that happened 50 or 60 years ago, where should we draw the permanent line for classifying history that impacts our fundamental public trust?